The idea here is we're going to be doing this, and we're going to look back on this in about a week. At least that's hopefully the plan. Why am I at 13 frames a second? Is it all the ads? I hope it's not all the ads. That would be frustrating. Alright, so we're gonna go in the list. We're gonna go with the browns first, then the yellows, then the greens, and the purples, and obviously the Iris. And some of these, I don't think are gonna shock anyone, like, immensely, but some of these are going to be, what's the word, interesting fits, I feel. Alright, so first up we got the good guy eyes. When you activate hide-o mode, the auras of all windows and down pallets are revealed to you within 20 meters. I'm gonna put it in C. It's not terrible, and when you're learning Chucky, I've actually found this has some use. It lets you know if there's a pallet close enough for you to slice and dice to, which is probably its most useful trait. And the reason why that's so good is because you can extend the lunge farther. The slice and dice goes about 14 meters, so if you can time this correctly, you can use this to get insane distance with it. But it's one of those that you can just bring Zancian if you really want this effect. There's a lot of things, or you can just remember with your object permanence. Next up is the good guy box. Reduces the cooldown duration of a successful slice and dice attack to 93% of its default, so it lowers it by 7%. So it reduces the cooldown of a successful hit. So basically, when you get a hit, there's that little moment where you can't attack or do anything again. This lowers that by 7%. Once again, I'm going to put this in B tier. It's not the worst add-on in the world or the worst effect. It's just one of those ones that relies on, one, you getting a hit, and two, the 7% isn't that great. It's not that good on its own. I will say that. It is good combined with another add-on we'll get to later. But I want to do these as on their own and or not combined with perks or other add-ons, which is going to hurt some of these, and yeah. Next is the strobing light. Reduces the terror radius by 6 meters when hide-o mode is on cooldown. Increases the charge time of slice and dice. C tier. It's not completely worthless. If you're using hide-o mode a lot and going for those slice and dice hits, it can be really, really good. If you combine it with things like Whispers, Starstruck, Infectious Fright. Like, if you use the hide-o dash, or the slice and dice dash to get the down, and then you are in cooldown, or not to get the down, but to move closer to them and then get the down with a basic M1, your terror radius is smaller, so Infectious Fright goes off, but since it's closer in, you can actually get to those people faster. Next up is the Tiny Scalpel. When hide-o mode drops a blood, turn bright red. I'm going to put this in D. Now, granted, this is an accessibility thing, but it basically just does Bloodhound's effect when you're in hide-o mode. This can be useful for tracking. I won't deny that point, but it is not the greatest thing in the world. There are many other better options for tracking, I feel. And if you really, really want to, just run Bloodhound, honestly. It's just, yeah, just run Bloodhound. Bloodhound also makes the bloodstains last longer, too. So it has another effect. Next is the automatic screwdriver. Reduces the cooldown duration of hide-o by 10% after missing a slice and dice. A tier. This add-on is arguably like his most reliable add-on. There is never a time in a game, even if you hit all of your slice and dices, which you're probably not going to, this add-on is still useful because it means you can use slice and dice for just mobility if you want to. You don't have to use it purely for... Sorry, I was making sure I was unmuted. You don't have to use it purely for movement or getting the hits. You can use it for movement around the map. At 10% doesn't mean much after a couple, but after about 5 or 6, it adds up. And if you use 10 slice and dices, which isn't unheard of in a match, well, you just fucking cut your cooldowns down by half. It's just that good. Next is the electric carving knife. Reduces the cooldown duration of missed slice and dice attacks to 95% of the default. So it's basically the good guy box, but better. I would actually say this one is arguably, yeah. Once again, on its actually, I'm gonna put it in B above good guy box. Once again, with these two, if they're combined, they are really strong. The carving knife with other, even with the screwdriver, is actually very good because it means you can use slice and dice much more easily for mobility, and it's just really, really convenient at times. The hairspray and candle reduces the power gauge penalty of the basic attack in Hi-De-Ho by 20%. A tier. This add-on is high A tier. This does something that is almost universally praised on every killer. It gives you options. If you are very close to a survivor, you can M1 them. I almost said auto attack. Thanks, League. You can auto attack them, and then you can immediately slice and dice right after. It's so good. It's so good as a catch-up tool. It's so good in general. Now, there are a couple of add-ons you don't want to combine it with. Don't use it with the Iridescent amulet because the auto attack would immediately get rid of your thing anyways. So yeah, don't do that. But otherwise, just really, really strong. There's a lot of situations where you will M1 someone and you can immediately catch up with slice and dice and get it down super quick. It doesn't happen often, but it will happen. Next we have the jump rope. It extends the slice and dice range by 8%. This is going a high B tier. This used to be S tier. This was so good that me and many others said it needed to be base kit, and they did that. And that's not to say it's bad. The 8% is still nice. It's just not anything super useful anymore. It's basically giving you maybe 4 more meters, 2 to 4 more meters on the hit, which is fine. I just don't think it's as necessary as it was on the PTB. Next is the power drill. Reduces the cooldown duration of Hi-De-Ho mode by 15% after a successful slicing dice. A tier. A tier. This add-on is basically rewarding you for hitting a slice and dice, which is really, really good. It means you can use it sooner, maybe get a scamper after the hit to get to another loop, etc., etc. That 15% adds up as well. All right. Next up is the portable TV. Portable TV extends the duration of slice and dice by 170% at the X gates. They lowered this from the 100% it gave on the PTB. Now I'd say it's B tier. You have to wait for in-game, and it's, yeah, while useful and fun, it's not the best. Rat poison. S tier. This add-on, while performing the slice and dice, the auras of all survivors within 12 meters are revealed to you for 5 seconds. This add-on lets you do so much. This add-on is just so good. The main use of this add-on, when you're slicing and dicing, especially when you're doing like the hug tech, quote-unquote, around corners and whatever, you can see exactly where the survivor is not to miss. But it's also good at just getting general information. If you have a general idea of where a survivor is, just slice and dice nearby, especially if it's about to go on cooldown, and you'll know exactly where they are. It's so good and so applicable in so many situations. And because it's timed, that means it is affected by Lethal Pursuer, and it's so useful and so I just love this add-on. I love aura add-ons in general, but almost every Chucky player I've asked has said this is probably one of his best add-ons. The running shoes. They also nerfed this from PTB. Performing a scamper grants 2% haste for 5 seconds. So whenever you crawl under a pallet. It used to be 3%, now it's 2%. This is still a solid A tier. Once again, this is judging them on their own. Combined with the hard hat, it's probably S tier, to be honest. But this add-on allows you to... there's a lot of loops where you can get a lot of free hits because of the running shoes. And I would actually put it a little farther down. Probably bottom of A tier. Yeah, bottom of A tier, I think, works. But yeah, it lets you get a lot of free hits at certain loops. And it's just overall just a useful thing. Honestly, you can just scamper under pallets like as you're traversing the map to get that movement speed buff. It's just nice. Silk Pillow permanently decreases the terror radius by 4 meters. Increases the charge time of slice and dice by 75%. I'm gonna put this in low B. The reason being, this add-on, unlike the strobe light, this permanently decreases your terror radius, which means you can combine it with some things like whispers to know when to go into Hi-De-Ho mode. The problem is the increased slice and dice charge. It's not that big of a deal. You can really adjust to it, but I have had it make me miss a few hits, and it's been very unfortunate. Now, if you're a big fan of using whispers, I would highly recommend it. Plus, it can make you sneakier in the overall game. If you combine this with monitor and abuse also, you can have a really small terror radius throughout most of the match. And you don't even really need the undetectable. But honestly, I think that's a bit overkill on Chucky to a degree. But we'll see. All right, next is the yardstick. This one's going in low A tier. Performing a scamper reveals the auras of all survivors within 12 meters of you. Now, the keyword there is scamper. I still cannot confirm or deny if this works on window vaults. I have been told both, and I have seen both, that it does and doesn't. So I'm not 100% sure. Either way, it's just good information. And we're not going to talk about combining it with rat poison. And why is this not as good as rat poison? Because you can't scamper all the time. So you can't get the information whenever you want. So, yeah, it's just... It doesn't have as much of the guaranteed usefulness as rat poison does. Okay, next we go into mirror shards. Mirror shards is going in D tier. Now, I talked to a lot of Chucky players, like I said. And I've used this add-on at least 3 or 4 times now. The reason this add-on goes into D tier is because the information it gives, which is... I'll explain what the add-on does. It grants you the ability to see the illusionary footfalls around survivors. So the little footsteps that go when you activate hidey-ho mode around the map, you can see them. When I first saw this add-on, I thought, well, maybe you can use it to get information to know where the survivor went, because like the footsteps would follow them. It doesn't do that. It just randomly puts them nearby. So it doesn't do that. It can give you some information on, like, oh, a survivor's in the general area, and you can combine it with some stuff, but on its own, it's just not good. Even combined with another add-on we'll get to in a second, it's just not good. The other thing with this add-on is that I think it's actively detrimental. Because when it says you can see the footfalls, you also hear them. Which is super disorienting, because you hear the footsteps, and it might confuse you into thinking it's a survivor right there. It sounds slightly different than a survivor's footsteps, but not exactly different, and it can be very, very disorienting. Next is Pile of Nails. This is high A tier for me. Probably his only good purple add-on, in my opinion. Or is one of his only good purple add-ons. We'll get to the other one in a second. Pile of Nails grants the undetectable status effect for 5 seconds after manually ending hidey-ho mode. If you don't get a chance to slice and dice, and you know a survivor is nearby, but you don't know exactly where, you can use this to really confuse them, because the footfalls will go away. They don't know you're still in the undetectable, and they don't know where you are. This gets you a lot of free M1 hits. It's not perfect. In fact, you know what? I'm going to put it in B tier just to get rid of my bias a little bit. But yeah, it's not perfect. Like, it has its downsides, obviously, but it's more of a playstyle change. These are the kind of add-ons I prefer, personally. So we'll see where it goes. But I think the idea of having undetectable, because that increases it by 5 seconds, which means you get more undetectable while your hidey-ho is on or recharging from cooldown. It's just really, really nice. Plastic bag, low C tier. I ran this add-on for... Okay, let me explain what it does. I keep forgetting that. Survivors walking through the footfalls suffer from exhausted status effect for 15 seconds. This add-on has a lot of issues. 1, unless you're running the mirror shards, you don't know if they ran through a footfall. So you don't even know if it did anything. 2, if you're not running the mirror shards, you just have to guess. 3, survivors do not run through the footfalls. The only survivors who might run through the footfalls are the ones that you're not chasing. And that's very likely it's just not good. There's probably some Chucky player who's found a way to make this work. I have not. It is not good. I don't like it. Yeah. Moving on. All right, next up, Straight Razor. Mid B. It just gives Slice and Dice the hemorrhage and mangled status effect, which is never a bad thing. It's just, it's not, like, game-changing or super good. And, like, we're not combining it with anything. Even if you combine it with Sloppy Butcher, so you always have those effects on everybody, I would maybe put it low A. Maybe. But, yeah, I think B works. The Hard Hat. Instantly break a pallet when performing a scamper under them. Automatically ends hidey-ho. I know people on Twitter are complaining about this one. I saw a lot of complaints about it. I'm putting this mid-A. Now, there's a couple reasons why. This add-on can be very oppressive. Very oppressive, especially if the Chucky player is using a perk built around it. Once again, we're judging these on their own. However, this add-on has the one problem of destroying the pallets. I have learned in my many hours of playing him so far, about 20 now, that destroying every pallet on the map is not always a good idea. Not just the trash ones, even the god ones. Because one, the god pallets can give them false sense of security, and two, think of them as springboards for slice and dice. If you can get a path of pallets, you can do an insanely long slice and dice that they won't see coming and get the hits from it. That's why I think Hard Hat is mid-A tier. It's a playstyle change, and you have to learn how to use it properly, I feel. And it's not always good to break the pallets. Not always good at all. And I think it's something that we're going to learn as the month goes on playing Chucky. Alright, last up. Last Iridescent add-on. The Iridescent Amulet. I am putting this in A tier. The highest of A tiers. I would put it in S, but there's one problem with it. So it extends Hidey Ho mode by... You know what? Actually, I'm going to put it in S. It extends Hidey Ho mode by 50%. It used to be 100. They actually lowered this. But if you basic attack, Hidey Ho mode ends. If you were a Chucky player like I am, where you don't always go for the slice and dices, and you just... Once again, this is an add-on that gives you options, and this is something that is invaluable. It's the same thing with the screwdriver and whatnot. It gives you options. You can use it to help stealth more often. You can use it to get around the map easier. The one downside is the basic attack thing, but honestly, if you're going for slice and dices or even basic attacks, it's not that big of a deal. The cooldown for Hidey Ho mode is not that long, so it's not the biggest deal that this increases it by 50% and immediately ends it. A lot of times, I mean, because unless you're running, and I know we're not combining things, but unless you're running the automatic screwdriver anyways, a lot of times when you get a basic attack, Hidey Ho mode basically goes away as is. So it's pretty much the same. And do not combine those two add-ons. Once again, we're not combining here, but do not combine those two add-ons. It is the worst combination you can possibly do. It does literally nothing. But yeah, I think that's a good tier list. I don't think there's anything I'd really want to move here. No, I think it's pretty good. And once again, other than these two, and like a lot of his add-ons are actually decently well. These three aren't terrible. They're just not the greatest things in the world. But yeah, I think we're good there.